Comfy Gang, it's your boy Comfy NEET. So I'm gonna be trying to crank out 2 videos in a row because I'm really not down to buy Discord again because, you know, it will add up eventually and I don't want to get in the habit of, paying for it. But anyways, yeah, for this video, I sort of wanted to expand upon what I talked about in last video and basically talk about something related, which is basically something that I sort of thought about, I guess not the past few days, but maybe a little while ago. But I was basically, you know how they say it takes 10,000 hours to become a master at something? Obviously, that number isn't necessarily exact all the time because it depends on things like how consistent you are, things like genetics, how talented you are at what you're trying to achieve, and so many different factors. But generally speaking, if you spend 10,000 hours working away, toiling away at some sort of hobby or skill, you might not become a quote-unquote master at it, but you're definitely bound to become pretty, pretty damn good at it. Definitely good enough to, charge people money for what you're doing, or, make something that, a lot of people would like if that's what you want, or, not just make, but, perform at a high level at whatever it is. And given that, it also got me thinking, how much of that time that I should have, spent towards my goals and my aspirations have I spent, on early in life, on useless crap. And that got me thinking, hey, why don't I talk about, the various things that I've wasted time on, and, the top different things that I've essentially sunk time into. And, yeah. So anyways, I'll be talking about that. Sorry if I ramble in this video. This is kind of last minute, trying to beat the clock here, trying to beat 12 a.m. But anyways, yeah. So the first thing I would say I probably spent the most time on would probably have to be YouTube. And I don't have an exact estimate because, someone told me that you could find out about your YouTube watch time by requesting it through the options page or whatever, something like that. And I don't know, maybe I wasn't looking at the stats correctly, but I couldn't find that information out. But I sort of have a brief idea of how much time I've spent on the platform. And basically I started watching YouTube when I'd say I was in late middle school, early high school. And that was like I'm not going to say like it was fairly early on in YouTube, where, all those comedy channels, which would probably be considered extremely corny now. Yeah, I guess everybody thought those were funny as hell at the time. And, things like, I don't even know what we used to watch apart from those stupid, those prank videos, those prank channels. And, those comedy channels. Like, I used to like, My Chani. I thought he was pretty funny because, he's Asian. And, yeah. But, there's a ton of those. Can't think of I honestly can't remember all those names. But basically, I started watching at that time when I was like, I don't know, 13, 14, 15, and whatever the age was. And I basically, from then, I remember I used to watch YouTube every night when I was supposed to be doing homework. And I started out pretty slow, maybe only watching 1 to 2 hours a night. But gradually, I would just watch more and more until it sort of hit a peak in high school of around 3 to 4 hours. And that's because that's the most I could get away with without jeopardizing my homework and my grades, which my parents really cared about and sort of nagged me about. So yeah, I basically did that. But then come university, when I had all the freedom that I could possibly have to basically, no rules, no restrictions, no one watching over my shoulder except my conscience, which is not my conscience, but my the part of my conscience that controls my self-control, which is basically bankrupt. I basically would watch 4 to 5 hours on top of doing other distracting things, which I'll talk about next. So how much is that? Like, let's say on average from this point, and then after that, when I became NEET, I started watching even more, especially even before I became NEET, like in the later parts of my university years, I probably watched like 6 hours to maybe 5 to 6 hours. And then when I became fully NEET, it depended on the day, but sometimes I watch up to like 8 hours of YouTube nonstop. Sometimes I wouldn't be even watching the video, but I would have it on in the background while I was doing other things to get that sort of combination of different behavioral addictions going. So 8 hours. So let's say on average I watch 3 to 4 hours of YouTube a day for, let's say, 12 years. So that's 365 times, did I say 4 hours? Times 4. Let me quickly pull that out in a calculator. So 365 times 4 times 12. So that's around 17,520 hours that I spent on YouTube alone. So just imagine if I had put that time into, so that's basically enough for me to become a master in one activity and almost a master in another activity with just 2,500 hours more, and I'd basically be, a master at 2 different things by now. But sadly, I chose to spend that time on fucking useless videos. So unfortunately, I am in the position I am because of that. The second biggest waste of time for me would probably have to be video games. I don't remember the last time I checked my league stats. I could probably check it now, but I want to get this video over with so I can upload it. But who knows, maybe I'll look at it later. But I think last time I checked it, it was probably around it's like something crazy, like 8,000 hours on league. Maybe not 8,000, maybe like 5,000, 6,000, something in the thousands. So that's on league alone. And I started playing league by the time I finished high school. And then there's the fact that I've played so many different games, and even though I haven't finished many of them, when you add up all the games that I've played, it's probably into the thousands. So you're looking at maybe on average 10 hours per game. So 10 times 1,000, that's 10,000 right there, plus league and all that crap. So I'd say on video games, I probably spent 20,000 hours. So I could have been a master at 2 more things, or a grandmaster, if that's even a thing, or like a god, an ascendant being at like 1 activity or even 2 activities, because that's like 20,000 hours pretty much between video games and YouTube alone. And then you have things like movies and anime and other visual media, which I've spent maybe another 10,000 hours on. Maybe the math is all fucked up because I can't honestly, like, maybe this is beyond my years of living at this point because I'm not doing the calculations properly, but it's definitely a lot of time on visual media, so movies, anime, and other things that aren't YouTube. And I'd say maybe, let's say I've spent another 10,000 hours. So that's 50,000 hours with that added to it. And what else? A more recent one is looking through audio plugins and looking for audio plugins and software and samples and stuff like that, which is hobby related, but that wasn't really conducive to me doing anything creative. I probably could have made so much more with so much more with, just the basic stuff that I already had, but I had to keep consuming and collecting useless like crap, hoarding, hoarding data, basically ones and zeros in a computer, and which is tantamount to nothing. But with that, I probably spent 2,500 hours or so. So that's that. So that pretty much rounds it out of 50,000. And then when you, what else could I spend time waste? What else could I waste time on? How about just daydreaming, lying in bed, daydreaming, sitting down, daydreaming, zoning out, fantasizing about a life I could have lived, or my, beating up my bully, or, stupid crap like that, stuff that just doesn't help at all, versus actually doing things that could, put me in the position to achieve what I want. I probably spent, maybe, honestly, a lot of time, like maybe 10,000 hours throughout my lifetime. So that's 60,000 hours. I could literally be a god at 3 different skills. And, obviously that's not feasible, because I'd just be I'd still be kind of weird, like, obviously, but, 20,000 hours could be directed towards a sort of macro skill, which is basically being a normie and living life. And I'm sure that given my social deficits, if I just directed the time towards, a broad set of skills like grooming, socializing, and all the micro skills that are involved in dealing with people and, being a, not even a functioning member of society, but just someone who's competent and who can get around the world and live on their own terms. I'm pretty sure that even if I didn't become some, self-made billionaire, I could probably learn to eke out a sort of decent existence for myself. So, yeah, that's 60,000 hours right there. And oh man, this is depressing, thinking about how much time I've spent. And maybe this isn't very realistic, because obviously not everybody is going to be able to be that motivated in order to spend that time that efficiently. But even if I'd spent half of that time, if I just wasted half of the time that I did, I could at least be a master in 3 different skills, or, a master at one skill, and at the same time pretty well rounded as far as being a person goes. And yeah, because I guess that's what a lot of successful people are like. Maybe not the top 0.1% of society, but maybe like the top 1% of people, the top 10% are like that, where they're really good at one thing and well-rounded as individuals. So, or maybe conversely, just barely scraping by as a well-rounded human being, and maybe a god at one thing, 20,000 hours spent on something. Maybe if they're somewhere on the spectrum and are willing to, or just hyper-focused individuals, hyper-conscientious, extremely hardworking. So yeah, there's that. And so it's 60,000 hours. I mean, that's a lot of time already, but on top of that, I've probably spent even more time wasted that I just can't think of at the moment, because I'm kind of under pressure. And on a more positive note, if you look at all the things that I have worked towards, I'd say cumulatively, I've probably spent maybe 8,000 hours across all the things that I consider productive, like cooking, making music, different things, different skills, maybe another 10,000 on education, on academia. But the thing is that was all well-rounded. But as a quote-unquote student, someone who has to go through the system, I was pretty good at one point, even though I didn't have any self-control. If push came to shove, at least before I lost my cognitive ability, I could at least do things like cram study before tests and get pretty decent marks. But now I've lost that ability, so that's a sort of I guess a shame. I have to read over shit now and read over stuff. I don't know why I'm swearing so much today. read over stuff and study as hard as I can in order to, get a good grade. And so I'd say in terms of a ratio of productive to unproductive time, I'd say I'd spent 1 part productive time to 3 parts unproductive time. And that's across 80,000 hours. The rest of that was probably spent doing things like eating, bathing, and just surviving. So obviously, and sleeping. Obviously, I don't even know how many hours I've lived. That's something I'll have to put into a calculator to see, but I don't even want to think about it because that'll just make me even more depressed when I actually get the math right. Hopefully I'm overestimating the amount of time that I wasted, because maybe that'll make me feel a lot better. But anyways, I guess that's pretty much all I have to say at this point in time. So this is it for the first video, and these are the things that I've essentially wasted the most time in. Anyways, sorry if this video is kind of low quality, but I'm really trying to bang them out as fast as I can right now. I'll probably make a second one right after this and upload them both at the same time. Anyways, this is Company signing out.